Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Thursday, October 31st, 2024. Faced with obstacles to abortion, military women have built their own support system. Air Force Staff Sergeant Octavia James has helped fellow airmen navigate the difficult choices faced by women in the military when they are contemplating an abortion. People usually seek James out when they don't feel comfortable going to a commanding officer. She has invited airmen to stay in her apartment in Norfolk, Virginia. While they recover from an abortion, she recalls once having to help out a friend out of the shower because her sedation was slow to wear off. Every person's different, she said. Everyone recovers differently. Everybody needs different things after, and everybody's seeking an abortion for a different reason. So I can't tell you what's best for you, but if you need me, I'm here. Seeking an abortion has always presented unique challenges for women in the military. For decades, a measure known as the Hyde Amendment has banned federal funding for most abortions, and only allows military doctors to perform abortions in the case of rape, incest, or where the life of the mother is at stake. But more than 2 years after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, striking down the constitutional right to abortion, the obstacles for members of the military have only gotten harder. Some of the 40% of women in the military now serve in states with abortion bans or expanded abortion restrictions. This new landscape has left many service members scrambling to navigate their options, having to figure out how to travel, sometimes hundreds of miles from base, even though they're not free to leave whenever they want. The military has tried to make it easier by creating a policy that allows extra leave and paid travel for women seeking an abortion outside of the military. But the policy was used just 12 times from June to December last year, according to the Pentagon. Instead, women in the military are often relying on an ad hoc peer support system that many compare to an underground railroad of military women helping one another, according to interviews with more than 40 current former service members, advocates, and researchers. Women are coming up with their own solutions, said Caitlin Klassen, a former Army captain and fellow at the University of Pennsylvania, who researches how women in the military access abortion. As healthcare provider, we can do better for these service women who have volunteered to serve our country, and we should do better. Women are going where they feel welcome. A short drive from James' home in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, has become a part of the informal network of military towns, seeing an increase in military clients as state laws change. The area has the highest concentration of U.S. Navy personnel in the world. The city also has the most military clients for Planned Parenthood in Virginia, according to the organization. I think a lot of military folks have friends in other areas with a high military population. So if I'm stationed in Jacksonville, I might know someone in Virginia Beach that I can stay with, said Marian Senicola, a nurse at the clinic. Virginia is becoming a hub for abortion care as other states with large military populations, including Georgia and Texas, impose strict limits abortion remains legal in Virginia through the end of the second trimester, in line with the protections that were allowed under Roe. On average, women stationed in states with strict limits on abortion are traveling hundreds of extra miles to access care since Roe v. Wade was struck down. The average travel time for a woman stationed in Texas is more than 8 hours by car, according to research published by JAMA. The maze of laws can be a particular problem for women who have only recently transferred to a base and might not know the area. North Carolina now has a 12-week ban on abortions, but it also requires patients to come for a consultation and then come back for the procedure. A second visit may require another request of leave, Clayson said. I am not trying to make light of the very real issue that civilian women have, but you do not need your boss's legal permission to travel more than a certain number of miles, Clarkson said. That is the first hurdle that active duty service women deal with. The second is you do not choose where you live. One Air Force sergeant who spoke with NPR recalled her experience trying to get an abortion after being transferred from Germany to Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota in 2022. After the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health Organization striking down Roe, NPR has agreed to withhold her name because she feared the decision could follow her. My son was 6 months at the time, she said. I had also suddenly lost my mom unexpectedly, right before I gave birth to my son. So mentally, I was just not there. I could not handle another kid. She and her husband drove more than 4 hours to the only clinic in North Dakota. She said her Air Force provider seemed sympathetic but hands off. I did not get any information from him. The only other resources she got, she said, was from the local health clinic. But when the state's near total abortion ban took effect, the clinic shut down. She received the medication for her abortion just before it closed. A chilling effect. Current and former service members who spoke with NPR say these types of challenges date as far back to 1977, when the Hyde Amendment first went into effect. Nearly 50 years later, they say the language continues to have a chilling effect on some providers. The physician who helped coordinate Navy Lieutenant Commander Juliet Ruff's abortion in 2016 with a local clinic in Japan felt obligated to clock out so she wasn't being paid by the federal government while she helped her. She was doing it on her own personal time, Ruff said. She was not doing it as an affiliate of the medical system. We became friends through the process. Ruff is also a nurse stationed at the Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point in North Carolina and makes herself available to women to answer questions online, part of the informal network of military women helping one another. She said, There are private groups to set up helping women pay for abortions, including women in the military. The National Network of Abortion Funds does not list any fund geared specifically to very particular needs of women in the military. You need somebody who was impacted to start the type of group. You have to have funding and resources to do that. As women in the military, we're a fairly small percentage of our workforce, Ruff said. Few women have used the Pentagon's travel policy. After Dobbs, the Pentagon created a travel and leave policy that pays for off-base travel and up to 3 weeks of leave for unrecovered reproductive care, which includes abortion or in vitro fertilization. To increase the level of privacy, the policy also gives women 20 weeks to inform their command that they are pregnant. Advocates say that the program is a good first step, but they also worry that it's not being promoted enough. The policy has also drawn critiques. Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama held up a confirmation of all top military appointments in protest of the policy. Earlier this year, the Pentagon said the program was used just 12 times from June to December last year. The Defense Department did not release figures for the months prior to that, and declined to provide updated figures beyond the end of last year. It responded to a request for comment by referring NPR to a list of existing Pentagon policies. Advocates say one potential change that could make the program easier to use would be to have military doctors issue the leave, so women won't have to ask their commands for time off. Andrea Ward Wiley, a former nurse at a clinic at Naval Air Station Fallon in Nevada, suggested having a person at each base who is point of contact for non-covered reproductive health options, similar to the advocates for victims of sexual assault that are common on military bases. There are deep concerns that having an abortion could follow someone throughout their career, said Jackie Wang, senior legislation analyst with the National Women's Law Center. There's a stigma around abortion in the military, Wang said. I talked to women service members, and they have left the military, often feeling that the system failed them in so many ways. I think that extends to the experience with reproductive health care in the military. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Sharon Arna is stationed at Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia. In 2009, she was in officers' training school in Alabama. She remembers her and her husband stopping outside the base to take a pregnancy test. I was in a gas station bathroom because I didn't want to do it in the dorms, thinking, what if someone finds this in the trash, she said. Arna leads Sword Athena, an Air Force group that looks at barriers women face in the Air Force, including access to abortion. After Dobbs, she compiled an anonymous survey of over 1,000 women about their experiences with abortion in the military. One woman sold her car to pay for an abortion. Other women said they were denied leave. Arana has found no consistency in the information or help women were provided. 93% of women were not offered mental health counseling, and 88% didn't receive convalescent leave, according to her findings. Women encounter providers with moral objections to providing even contraception. The data helped inform the Pentagon's travel policy, but the program hasn't fixed some of its underlying problems, she said. What we were seeing was that a lot of the people in the military who are getting abortion are those of our airmen who are still in traveling or living in the dorms, she said. They haven't learned yet how to advocate for themselves, and they are the kind of beholden to their leadership to take care of them. Witches' marks and curses found carved into the walls of historic English manor. A set of markings known as witches' marks have been discovered carved into the walls of historic medieval manor in England. The witches, or apotropaic marks, believed to protect against witches or evil spirits, and other ritual carvings were found at Gainsborough Old Hall in Lincolnshire in eastern England. They were discovered during 2 years of research by Rick Berry, a volunteer for English Heritage, the organization that oversees Gainsborough, along with 400 other historic sites, monuments, and buildings. Berry found and cataloged roughly 20 carvings in a wide range of designs, mainly in the servants' wing, at the property, which dates back to the late 15th century, English Heritage said in a press release Tuesday. They include a pentacle meant to ward off evil, overlapping V's, also called Marian marks, which some believe to be called to Virgin Mary for protection, and hex foil designs believed to trap demons, the organization said. Notably rare, curse inscriptions were found, which English Heritage said it had not previously seen at any of its sites. One such inscription was the name of one of the property owners, businessman William Hickman, written upside down. Defacing a person's name was thought to curse that person, according to English Heritage. There were also 100 burn marks, which the organization said was to protect against fire. Kevin Booth, head of collections at English Heritage, said the reason for the many markings at the site is unclear. It is astonishing that centuries on the amazing old buildings in our care still have secrets waiting to be discovered, Booth said in a statement. The old hall has undoubtedly had a tumultuous past, not least under the ownership of the apparently unpopular William Hickman. But why it's the scene of quite such a high concentration of protective carvings remains a mystery. Built in the 1400s, the property has been owned and visited by prominent wealthy figures of England, including the family of Sir Thomas Burgh II, King Henry VIII, and Queen Catherine Howard. Hickman and his family lived in the manor beginning in 1596. According to English Heritage, called an astute and ruthless businessman, the organization said he manipulated his authority as owner to maximize both his control and income. Starbucks hopes faster drinks, fewer upcharges, and nicer mugs bring people back. You know, things are rough at Starbucks when the company drops bad news preemptively, which it did last week to get ahead of Wednesday's deadline to report earnings. Sales in the U.S. have fallen for months, down to 6% in the latest quarter compared to a year earlier, making it the worst quarter since the pandemic-era shutdowns. The number of purchases dropped 10%. The chain's new CEO on Wednesday ordered big changes. Drinks ready in 4 minutes or less, no upcharges for non-dairy milks, a simpler menu, a store redesign, and the return of a condiment bar, where people used to pour their own milk and sweeteners before the pandemic. It is clear we need to fundamentally change our strategy to win back customers. CEO Brian Nicole told investors in his first address about 2 months into the job. We're reclaiming the third place so our cafes feel like the welcoming coffee house of our customers remember. Much of Nicole's focus appears to be on separating mobile ordering, which will have fewer customization options, from the in-store experience, which will have where he plans to add more comfortable furniture and ceramic mugs to encourage people to stay. Too fancy to be basic, too basic to be fancy. Two women with paper coffee cups chatted at a table near an airy new Starbucks in the upscale Washington suburb of Bethesda, Maryland. Closer inspection revealed the cups to be from another cafe a block away. "We're just here for the sun," said one of the women to Mark King. "This is a park." In fact, this Starbucks is swarmed by rivals. This busy downtown stretch counts 11 coffee spots within a 2-block radius. That includes the usual suspects Dunkin' and Panera, the trendy options, Tot Bakery and Ceremony Coffee Roasters, and even another Starbucks. This kind of competition didn't used to threaten the coffee giant, but it's grown intensely. Plus, there's another battlefront. The company that got America hooked on coffee now competes not only against other cafes, but also against all the fancy coffee makers people have at home or at work. That leaves Starbucks stuck in the middle. Too fancy to be basic, too basic to be fancy. "I used to go to Starbucks every day for years," King said. What changed? The office where I work has a fantastic coffee machine. Fantastic. On Wednesday, Starbucks revealed that it's losing not only occasional customers, but also once loyal visitors. "We loved it so much for years," said Lisa Janowski, who came by the Bethesda Starbucks with her husband Jerry to cash in on his rewards card, a free venti skim latte as a gift for his birthday. They used to go to Starbucks regularly, but now they gravitate to gourmet coffee shops, where they want the community feel and superior coffee flavor. The daily lattes get made at home. They estimate for about $1 a cup. "We have a nice machine at home that we use," Jerry Janowski said, "and my wife is a great barista. She makes designs for me." On the wish list, better beans and latte art. Lisa Janowski says she'd visit more often if Starbucks beans tasted less burnt. Size options included a short latte with just 1 shot of espresso, and if baristas did latte art. Nicole said latte art, designs on top of the milk foam, is something baristas told him they love to do. But it's hard to imagine the pace of Starbucks, especially during the morning rush, mobile ordering piling up, stores crowded, and workers overwhelmed. Now, Nicole is reassessing staffing levels during busy hours. He hopes to give baristas more time to focus on the espresso drinks. One way is through a simpler menu and guardrails around customizations, where we sometimes, I think, get twisted in all the complexity of the customization that people take us up on, Nicole said, and I think a lot of it is unnecessary. The CEO did not specify what food or drinks options will go, though an internal memo obtained by Bloomberg said Starbucks will start by mixing olive oil, coffee, and toffee nut syrup. The coffee giant is betting big on Nicole, literally. The coffee company lured him from Chipotle, which he credited with rebooting after a series of foodborne illness outbreaks. At the coffee giant, he could earn one of the biggest paychecks in the industry, more than $100 million, if he succeeds in turning it around. Nicole's challenges are many. Several shoppers in Bethesda bring up their disappointment in Starbucks in still fighting its unionized shops. The chain has lost its footing in China. It's facing boycotts in the Middle East and Asia over the company's perceived support of Israel in its conflict with Gaza. One woman in Maryland says that's why 24 people she knows in the US have also stopped visiting Starbucks. And the biggest complaint by far? It's way too expensive, says Angeli Smith, who regularly works from Starbucks cafes, and on this day met a friend over a pumpkin cream cold brew. I mostly just use gift cards for birthdays and graduation. Asked about this on Wednesday's call, Nicole said the chain has only begun reviewing its menu and prices. The end of extra charges of non-dairy milks will kick things off November 7th. In Starbucks owned in North America. The new CEO is calling his turnaround plan back to Starbucks, evoking a time when Starbucks was simpler, cheaper, cozier, cooler, and thriving.